welcome to another episode of the Heartwood Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Thomas Richard Easley, aka Richard Ease, aka the Hip Hop Forester. This grin on my face is a genuine grin because I am talking to someone that I have wanted to get on our platform for 3 years now, okay? But I couldn't get on the podcast. Why? Because we were working. That's right. This is none other than my friend in life, but my partner in the work that I do as a consultant. This is none other than Mrs. Kaytia King. I'm so prideful to have you here with me. Heartwood, I'm out of character today because I'm just going to be rolling excited, so you just deal with it. Kaytia, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. You said you've been trying to get me on for 3 years. This is the first time I've been asked.
Told you she's smart.
But I've been waiting patiently, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, the reason why I waited because we were doing the work together.
It's true.
You see,
we were out there.
We've been traveling since, we've been traveling in the pandemic, kept from getting sick, but we've been doing our work now for the last four years.
About to go 5?
Yeah, about to go 5. And the reason why I say in this last 4 years, because when the pandemic happened, you and I were able to, we never lost touch since we, been connected, but, we figured out a way for us to work together, and this continued on, like to now. Now, I have so many great things I can say about her, but she's sitting right here. I'm not gonna put a business out there because it's none of y'all business, but I will just say, you have a strong background, like say in politics and immigration. I'm a highly educated individual, has worked on policy as I just mentioned, is an entrepreneur, has her own business, okay, Undina Consulting, is powerful. Also is a creative too, because you've taken the work that I thought that I was doing good and just really expanded it, and it's enhanced our teamwork. I'll just say, from the East Coast of the U.S., but is there anything else that you want to tell anyone to know about them before I, just go into what we do?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like Thomas said, I'm an entrepreneur. I own Undina Consulting. Consider myself a social impact strategist. I see everything in the work I do as social impact work. Lived many lives. I've been doing DEI work for a long time, was in policy, was in grant making, was in education. That's how we met. In my free time, I'm a horse wrangler, a baker, a painter, a Renaissance woman, if you will, pursuing my Beyonce lifestyle in so many ways.
Swiftie too, though, right?
I do like Taylor Swift, but there's when people are like, Taylor Swift is the greatest thing that's ever happened to like our generation, I'm like, have you met Beyonce? What do you mean? So if I had to choose between the two, I would be in the Beehive.
Okay. Okay. And she's educating me on a lot of the music on both sides, so I am well versed both. Okay, on the queens of for sure. Well, we've been, like I said, traveling the country, doing this work now for the last 4 going on 5 years. Yeah, so I love how we work together. But I'd like to go back, before I had gray hair, I should say. Like what, I've always been just curious to know, or want to know, what was it about working, with me, that just kind of brought it, like to the point where you and I actually connected and then started working together, because you were in a different department than I was.
Yeah. So when I started, I needed a research area and I wanted to explore diverse classrooms. And I had a research methodology instructor who, when I had proposed my project, basically was like, you're gonna need someone who like understands how those audiences speak. And I couldn't really grasp what she was implying, if she was saying like she was expecting people to be speaking in Ebonics or whatever it was. But I was like, I need to speak to someone who's like not in this area, because y'all don't seem like you can help me. And so I started doing research on like what DEI professionals were in the university. And I think maybe the school that you were at was the only one. And despite it not being my college, I had found your name, and I was young to the point where I would just show up places and see what happened. And
I remember that.
yeah, so that's what I did. I found your office and I just waited outside. And that's when I met Mickey Fern, because he was like, "Are you looking for me?" And I was like, I don't know. I could be. Do you have anything for me? And, talked to him for a minute and waited for you to come in, and told you about what I was looking to do and told you about my project. And you were very welcoming to me. And, I ended up studying one of your classrooms for my thesis project, and you were on my committee for graduate school. And, we had kept in touch after graduation. And, I think when the pandemic happened, with the work that I was doing, I was just looking for more. And felt like I wanted to be in a position of practice as well, not just the work that I was doing with immigration. And I knew you were had moved through your career and were going into that area out on your own. And so I think it just made sense. The relationship was already there. I knew we were pretty aligned on some philosophies behind the work. And not so different for me, just knocking on doors, 6 or 7 years prior, and just seeing who answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I remember that Zoom call, phone call, and how we, ended up basically getting here.
Yeah.
And but it's been an honor for me ever since, because I'm used to just kind of just being alone and working solo, and I think I'm pretty patient with folks, but sometimes I'm not patient with myself though. And so I would assume that people don't really want to maybe work with me. So that's why I never bother people with that. So then when you came, I'm just like, really, because I'm still trying to figure this stuff out, but let's make it happen, because I already trust you. So, like we can't do anything but go up from here. And so it's really been that kind of, it's been a way for me too. So you mentioned Mickey. All right. Okay. In particular. Okay. So Mickey is a mutual friend. So we go out on the road and we do work, and we call it enrichments in our work versus workshops or trainings. Okay. And you have to access us there to know why we call enrichments that cost money. All right. So, but we did get this, Mickey Fern, which has been on the podcast before. He gave us this really cool activity that he created. Okay. So I just want to kind of deviate from the normal, so when we're out doing our enrichments and stuff, can we talk about what are some of the things or one of the things that we do that really drives the point home?
Yeah. I do think there's more than one thing, obviously. I think, so I'll list a few and then I'll go into more detail on one of them.
Okay.
But I think one of the things that we do pretty well is we do figure out what the personal connection is for each individual person in the facilitation, and to really bring them in. They are a part of this conversation. I think something that has been a part of the division is thinking that this is a conversation for a select group of people and not for another group of people. So I think that we overcome that barrier well by pulling people in, calling people in to that work. I think the other thing that we kind of carry in our back pocket is, because we are going in person to a lot of these places and are physically in the space with them, we have a fair amount of activities that I think really help to elicit empathy in ways in which people don't necessarily realize it's happening until the end. I think for me, diversity, equity, and inclusion, like we talk about it being a practice and being a process, but I also think that it's deeply, deeply integrated. And I think that when you do it well, you never have to even say those words.
True.
It's part of the process. It's embedded into what you do. And I think that we get people comfortable by that approach, but still get them doing the work without even having to necessarily become ambassadors of an ideology. They can still get an understanding and implement what that work looks like. And I think that we have a number of activities that starts that process off and starts it off well.
Okay. All right. Oh wow, this is. I almost want to say, ask me a question, but no. I want to keep this going. Uh, what? Okay, so you just explained like what are the things that we do well that brings people into the conversation.
Yeah.
I'd like to get your expertise on, in your opinion, why is there been so much backlash? Okay, with this work, because when we go places, we don't deal with the backlash. We go places, we have had people who were somewhat trepidatious at first,
Yeah.
but in the end, we always end up getting extra people because we are there for a couple of days. But just in your opinion, like why do you think that there's so much backlash on, and in particular, I'm saying DEI?
I think it is about what I said that we do well first, which is to pull people in. I think that a lot of people think it's us versus them, or it's only for a certain group of people, and it makes that certain group of people resent this other group of people. And I think having that mindset, why would you want to be involved in something like that? And I think there's like, that's for you, it's not for me. And or like they're speaking to you, they're not speaking to me. And I think the other half of that is this idea that like opportunity or fairness is somehow pie. Like you've got something to lose as a majority with power, and that if somebody else gets the equal chance at opportunity, then you won't anymore. And that I think is kind of at the crux of the issue. Like it's not just us, them, but it's thinking that like I am going to lose something in this conversation. Something's going to be taken from me. And everyone knows what it's like to feel kind of like the underdog, or like you're losing grasp on something that you feel is yours. And so I think that something that we do well is that feeling is common ground.
Yes.
And the goal of good DEI work, in my mind, is that nobody has to feel that way. And understanding no one likes to feel that way, so how do we make it so that we've got equal opportunity for everyone? That's equity to me. Not just, you got a raise before, but now we need to give so-and-so a raise. Like that's, and because we give so-and-so a raise, we're taking money away from you or something like that. Like, I think that's the idea that people believe in. Or even when we talk about like national politics, this idea that like some people are losing the country. Which is a much longer conversation.
True.
But this idea that for other people to have a quality life, you can't have one too. And I think that is untrue, but that is the crux of the issue that makes people kind of repel or retract from DEI.
I would like to add something to that. I think that if you having you just use some spiritual words or some other words, but not trying to get spiritual. I think if you have an abundant mindset, you are usually not afraid to engage even in something new because you know something positive is coming. I'm actually going to get something out of it. And I also believe in abundant is not reduction, it's in I'm also going to give something to it. I think that if you have a scarcity or scarce mindset, right, you're automatically coming into it in this I said a reductionist, but you're reducing the opportunity immediately before it even starts to say, this is not about me getting anything, this is about them over there. Like the people automatically kind of self-select out, instead of being engaged. And I think that we intentionally, and not with force, but definitely strong, but we intentionally keep people in that room or in that space without attacking, which we never attack, but without putting anyone down. We never minimize anyone. And we really, I think, listen to everyone, but I think it's because we come in there with that abundance mindset of, all right, let's see what we can get out of the people in this room, because we don't assume that they don't know. I feel like we walk in assuming, you know something, you probably just haven't had the time to think about this or giving yourself the time to have this discussion, because everything we talk about that goes on there is old. It's never no new thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we get into conversations with folks who feel more resistant to it, And what happens in those conversations is we do give them the time and the space to think through in a way that they just don't get. Like, time is such a luxury. And time to think is such a luxury. And I think when we have people in that space who are operating through the world, kind of using these like mental shortcuts, like heuristics, right? Yes. It's so easy to use those. We are trained, we've evolved to use those as humans. But a lot of those are stereotypes. They don't let us see people individually. They just let us group into people and make decisions about categories of people. And that has real consequences. And I think in these moments with folks who are kind of rejecting this idea, it's because they're making these mental shortcuts in their mind, maybe coming from talking heads or headlines, whatever it may be, to say, I already know about DEI, and DEI means something terrible. But then, you'll see all these other interviews where someone's maybe doing on the street style. And people are like, well, what does inclusion mean? And it's like, well, I don't know. Or there's an agenda. Or it means critical race theory is going to take over schools or whatever.
Gets me. Yes.
But if you give people time to think, I think they can come up with something much different. And so I think that's a part of our practice, is giving people time and space to think and to go through a problem not in the moment. Like, if you could think clearly, if you could get more context for yourself, if you could spitball with somebody else, how would you navigate through a conflict or a problem? And how different would that look? And how do you normally navigate through a problem when you're less resourced? And I think creating space to build that awareness can be really powerful and really helpful for people.
Okay. Creating space, which is something I think that we've done in our work relationship, in particular too, about the creating space. I wanted to bring up something that it was uncomfortable at, like when it happened, but we were able to work through it. You remember the contract conversation?
Yeah.
When we talked about that. So I just want to take us there because yes, we are friends, but we're friends who are also in business, with each other. And so there are times, I know that you've heard, I've heard, don't mix business and friends, don't, do that. But I do think that it can happen and it can work, but we may just have to have a couple of either uncomfortable conversations, or at least just have a conversation about, what's on your mind. And I know for me, the first thing, I never wanted to cheat you or cheat you out of anything. Sure. I never wanted to. I don't want you to work for free. Neither do I. Yeah, and we do align like that. But I think that it was very helpful that we were able to have a conversation about, being an independent contractor, what it means to have the contract, and even to talk about, even just uncomfortableness of having the conversation, because we worked with other people who we needed to have the conversation with them, not necessarily with each other, but it was good for us to be clear just with what the expectations were. It was good for us to be clear about that. And I just want to personally, and in your face, thank you for going through that with me, because I do think that for me, it stretched, not stretched me more in our friendship, and that's my homie, that's my friend right there, we can work this out. But I had to be the one to just say something versus waiting for someone else to do it,
Yeah, I think initially, and I can't remember now because it was a few years ago, but I think initially when you gave me a contract, I felt a little maybe taken aback. And now it makes so much sense to me. And I think somewhere it opened up a conversation that should have been had, but maybe we didn't know how to approach it several years ago.
True.
I think somewhere along the line, probably honestly when I lived here, I can't remember, or maybe when I first moved to Denver, I was looking for apartments, and I was renting from like a more private owner. And maybe that's when I moved to Denver, and they wanted 3 months rent. So it was
ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like first and last and a security deposit.
Wow.
And it was a lot of money, and I was getting my first job out of graduate school, which was not making a lot of money. And I remember talking to somebody, and I wish I could remember who it was, but they were like, everything is negotiable. And I was like, okay. And so I, went back to that landlord, and this was private, obviously you can't do this with like institutions.
True.
But I was like, that's like not really what I'm seeing in this market. It's a lot of money. Are you willing to just do first and last? And she was. And I think because she was, that taught me like the worst someone can say is no. And maybe that's not the worst, maybe it opens up another door.
True.
But I think it got me thinking about like everything is an invitation to a conversation. It's not just this one-way street. And I struggle with that in other areas of my life, thinking that it's one way. But when I open it up and really listen, and then respond to what I'm getting, it always is a better outcome for me.
Yes.
And so I think the contract between us, you sent it to me and it was pretty legalese. And I never thought to just sign it. I always immediately was like, great, I have questions. Let's talk about it. And I think people view contracts like that. I think people view terms like that all the time. Just be like, oh, it's either I sign it or I lose it. And I don't think like that anymore.
Same.
And that's been really helpful.
And it felt good for us to be able to talk about it, because I think that was the other key. Like it wasn't, I'm glad that you said it, because it was new for me too. So remember when you had the questions, I was like, let me look into it. Or I think this is what it is. It wasn't oh, why is she asking this question? It's more like, that's a good question. Let me go find out. And I wonder if people could set up or have the mindset, and hopefully it's with people that you trust and you're good with, though, that everything you said, this is an opportunity or an invitation to more questions. So it means it's an opportunity to get more things figured out. It's an opportunity to identify maybe even gaps, that we may not see. And what I feel fortunate for is that when you're working with someone who is actually looking out for you, and that was obvious, then it becomes, okay, what else can we get? How else can we build this? What other opportunities can we create? And I just wanted to share that because on Heartwood, remember, we talk to leaders who do this work, but we also try to give you tactics of things too. And that's why I wanted to ask that, just in, in real time. And also you get to see if I'm a bad person or not. All right. Okay.
Can I add one more thing?
Oh, please.
I do think that that's also like setting up expectations like that is how you can have a friendship and business partnership. Because there are clear lines. And I think sometimes when friends work together, there's maybe not clear guidelines on maybe who owns what afterwards, or who does which part, or how payment gets transferred, or whatever it may be. But having that stuff in writing provides you something to lean on as like, well, this is what we agree upon. And maybe it is a learning tool where you're like, for the next time we need to know to include this kind of thing because the conflict came out of this, or we just didn't know. But I think for when it's there, it's something to lean on so that you can kind of sustain the trust that you have within your friendship. And it makes the friendship more stable within the business relationship, I think, when there are guidelines like that.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to ask you now about being an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Okay. Because we're both entrepreneurs. We weren't always, if you will, but I've basically been in your life since at least from grad student, employee, leader, now entrepreneur, managing your own. How is it? I was okay me asking that, but like, did you just know? I know the answer, like just know, but I'm like, did you just know I want to go into entrepreneurship, or did things happen along the way that you went, I don't like that, but I like this. If I was doing this on my own, I wouldn't have to deal with this. If I was doing this, I would, like just, because for me, when I worked, in different institutions, I enjoyed the people that I worked with. The bureaucracy just always gave me a headache, just why my hair won't grow back now. So I'm just curious, like about you, like, because I've been, we've been doing this for like 4 years, and I feel like I kind of saw the transition, like doing this work. I want to start Thomas, and then next thing you know, it was like going off on my own.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that from your perspective. In my mind, like I never was hoping to be an entrepreneur. That was not my dream. I think there are lots of people out there who are like, I don't want to be managed. I want to be my own boss, and I know that from day one. And I was like, I am very happy for somebody to tell me what to do. I would be happy to use my brain less, and just like follow whatever it is. And there are people on the other side of that who are like, you're going to be working for somebody else, putting money in their pocket. And I was just like, I don't care. I don't want to be in charge of all the decisions.
Yes.
That's the trade-off for me. And I think what happened was, one, I got so incredibly burnt out. And I saw something, you know, after I had left my prior job, it was like, you can't fix burnout in the same environment that gave you burnout. And, you know, I had been thinking about leaving my job for a long time, but I wasn't ready because I didn't have anything else lined up. And other people around me wanted to leave. And I was like, don't leave until you have somewhere to land. Like, just don't, it's not smart, don't do it. It got to a breaking point for me where I was like, the value of $1 has gone down in my life in comparison to the other things that I'm now valuing more. And what I value more is my mental health, my time, my freedom, my flexibility. In that this position can no longer pay me enough for it to be worth it to continue to sacrifice those things. And I was getting sick, like my body was giving me all kinds of warning lights. You know, I compared myself to like a 2004 Ford Focus with all the lights flashing in the dashboard. To be like, would you drive this car to work? Like,
check
no
engine,
one in there.
check door.
Exactly. All the things are going off. And I'm like, I wouldn't drive this car to work. So if my body is doing the same, like, why am I continuing to drive it? And so at that point, I just was like, I just need to do something different. And I had you and our work together. So I was like, I'm not going to go from absolutely no work to absolutely nothing. I won't have this big unemployment gap if I don't want it, you know, on my resume. And I'd saved up a lot because I knew that this was coming. So I'd saved up enough to live essentially for a year without work before I quit. And then when I quit, I didn't work for several months. I was just like, I just need a break. And then we started picking up more stuff. And then I met some other folks who I started working for. And I still was like, I think I can just subcontract and be fine. I still don't really feel like I need to start my own business. And then it started bringing in enough that I was like, and I was looking at jobs and looking at going back to, you know, working a more W-2 style job. And I just wasn't seeing anything that I felt excited about. But with you and with the other clients I was working with, I was experiencing a lot of growth. And that had been something I was looking for at my prior job, that I felt like I just kind of hit the ceiling. I was like, you know, I'm a mid-career professional, but I don't know it all. And I have much more I want to learn, but it doesn't, you know, very Coolio, like no one's going to teach me. It was like, I can't find anyone, you know, who wants to teach someone in this way. And it's very difficult to apply for jobs and interview and be like, I'm looking for mentorship, because people are like, no, I want to hire the person who did this job already 5 times and they can just go hit the ground running. And not to say couldn't do some of that, but a learning environment in a workplace is hard to find some of the time. So I was looking at stuff and I just wasn't seeing it. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just start an LLC. And, you know, something I'm really working on for myself at this point in time is how I define success. And I don't want to use the word lenient, but being a little more self-aware of like what success takes and not being so black and white about it. And so I think initially my thought was, if I don't make my own business and get all my clients by myself, then it's a failure. There's like there are no degrees to success. And that obviously wasn't happening my first like 3 months of having an LLC. I was just subcontracting. And I finally, you know, had to give myself kind of a hard look in the mirror and be like, you know what, this is the first year of establishing a business and all you really need to do is survive. Like, you just need to make enough money. If you can make enough money in the next year to support yourself, like, and pay your bills, you don't even really need to make a profit. Like, that's all you need to be successful. And I think a part of it is recognizing the steps to success and like commending yourself along those steps to motivate you to keep going. Because I think what happens is we view it as it's all or nothing. And if it's not all, then it's a failure. And if we failed, then why would we keep going? Because we've already failed. And so looking at this starting a business to be like, all right, my first year was just subcontracting, but I made enough money to live on my own. And was very fortunate to be able to do that. And so now that I'm looking at my next year of business, I'm thinking about like, okay, well, what does success look like? What's the next step of success? I don't need all these clients to be in my name. It's just not necessary for me. But I did find that I don't want to be completely dependent on subcontracting work to sustain myself when things get low in workloads and through the year and the flow of contracts.
Understand.
And so I was like, all right, so next year I want to probably have like a third that are under Undina Consulting, maybe a third under somewhere else, third under somewhere else. Or just, it's similar to investing, right? Like you want to diversify.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, I need to diversify more than I have. And I want some things that I'm just solely responsible for because I can't just depend on other folks to just give me work, whether it's like earned or because of what I bring to the table or not. You kind of leave your faith in other people's hands more than I wanted to do. And so that's why I found myself in entrepreneurship. I think there were other people who saw this for me, who were like, yeah, can I swear?
Yes.
Yeah. I think there were other people who were like, she's going to be a business bitch, very Kelly Kapoor one day. And I just didn't see that for myself.
Okay.
And I also think like, if something else comes along that's not this, like I'm open to it. Whatever my next step will be, I'm not like committed to this one track for the future.
Yes.
So I think like, yeah, if it's growing this business, then great. I don't have this vision of like, oh, I build and I'll have employees and then I'll sell one day and that'll be my retirement. Like I'm not thinking that way. And I won't just take any job.
Yeah, any job, right.
I've got a lot of freedom now and my life feels very full. And I'm just working on like cultivating more and more joy in my life. The work that I'm doing, I can be selective about. I'm hoping to get even more selective about it in terms of what it gives back to me and what I can contribute to that work. I've got lots of hobbies, my social life, like all these things feel very fulfilled in this point in time. And I want to keep that. And so whatever I'm doing for work needs to kind of fit into the structure that I'm really enjoying right now. And not everything can. And right now, like a 40-hour work week is not something that fits into what I want in this moment.
I really appreciate everything you're saying, which I always do. No need to repeat that. We have so much in common. When you mention your path to entrepreneurship, I feel like I have the same or similar path. It's not something that I wanted to do in the sense of, even though my grandmother was an entrepreneur, my mom is an entrepreneur, but I didn't think that it was something that I wanted for the same thing. I work for somebody else. I don't mind someone else handling my taxes, and dealing with that instead of me having to do it. But I found myself with, in some ways, my back against the wall because I needed employment while I was trying to take care of my parents, and I had just left, my other job. Nothing bad was going on. I just left because I wanted to help them. And when I was a finalist for 6 different positions and nothing came through, you see, I was a finalist, so that means I made it to that point and didn't get any. I was like, oh man, well, fortunately I had money saved up at a year before. I do now, but not then. I said, I got to figure this out. I think I only had like 3 months. And then that's when we got, positive climate, and that's when we got World Forestry Center. And then that's when things shifted. And so I definitely align with you on that. Then the other thing that I really loved how you were explaining your hobbies and what you do, but how 40-hour week may not align with that. And to me, I just like to add my own way of it, to what you were saying. Your work and everything else revolves around your life. versus your life, or the way that I know I've lived my life revolves around my work. You know, it's like I can't go see my family because I got to work. I can't do this. Whereas now is I want to see my family, and work may have to wait, or, you know, of course, if I have the resources to do it. But, you know, it's changed. You know, the value of it is shifted. And just thank you for explaining that, because I do think that a lot of people do not get that. And I think a lot of people are nervous to step out, just as I was. And so I always want our conversation to keep going. I don't want to say the last thing, but I want to honor your time and thank you for being here with me. The last thing that I want to ask you is, you as an individual in this work, what are some of the pitfalls that you've had to look out for, you know, like you've looked out for them? And when I'm talking not just about work or money, I'm talking about like through identity and how to deal with people who may not, you know, align or get me. You know, it's like how have you, you know, thought through that? Like, you know, I'll just say, like, as an African-American man, right, there's a way that I go into a place so that I will have a positive experience. If something happens where it's not positive, I still think in that mindset of how do I get out of it? How do I represent myself well? And so that's just an example. So my question is just like, what are some of the things, if you don't mind sharing, that you've navigated, you know, that could impact you, but you successfully done it though? So I'm thinking about successes.
I mean, I do think what I said before is one in terms of that success piece. Success not being so black and white, pulling away from that. Does that feel aligned with kind of what you're asking? Yeah.
Yes.
I think the other, like, being an entrepreneur can be very lonely, or being a consultant can be very lonely, that we've talked about. And finding other people to collaborate with who you really enjoy spending time with. Like, I'm very lucky that I found multiple people I really enjoy working with, learning with, and just being around. I don't think there's a single person I work with now that I wouldn't just like go have coffee with in my free time. That's something I definitely learned. And, you know, as an earlier consultant, like, you just can't do it all on your own either. You don't know it all. And if you say that you do, you're lying. But I think the other piece, you know, I think when I left my job, I felt like I really knew who I was in that moment. And I think that was true. I think I did know who I was in that moment. But, you know, several months ago, I think I felt really lost. And a part of that was, you know, you think about yourself as this like full circle. And I was like, oh, this is like the evolved stage of who I am. But if you kind of come above a little bit, you realize that it's like a spiral and that you keep evolving into different versions. So every time you like make a turn, you're like, no, I'm done. That's it. This is my whole formed person. It's like, nope, now we're going down to another circle. And so I think that's a lot of what happened. And, you know, I'm in this kind of amorphous space where I don't have this clear picture of who I want to be. What I do have a clear picture of is how I want to feel. And I think that does go into what I was saying before about like whether your life determines your work or work determines your life. The feeling of freedom that I have is something I want to preserve. The joy of learning is something that I want to preserve. And I'm in a moment where I just feel like if I'm not getting those in the moment, then I have to figure out what to change. And I have to be okay with just trying things. And if they don't work out, that's fine, because it's an experiment. But it's hard to look at your own life as an experiment. And I think especially as you get older, there's so much pressure, you know, to be this person who succeeds, or to be this person who does X, Y, or Z. And you're like, I can't experiment. I have to follow this path and I have to get to X at the end of the road. And if I don't, then everything I've done before is a waste. And I'm really trying to move away from that. But I do think that that's kind of a pitfall of doing this work. I think another thing that's really hard is, you know, specializing in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then organizational development. A lot of people do not know what that is. And it's hard to kind of explain. It's hard to sell sometimes, or at least for me, where I am. not in that it's not hard to convince people that it's like worth the time, but it's not as easy as being like, I do presentations or I do strategic plans, to say like, I help teams transition leadership and build cohesive teams that are organizationally ready to support new leadership. Like, that's a very long byline, isn't it?
Yes.
And so
True.
thinking about
It's a true line, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like, what is the service then that I'm listing, or who do I get in front of, and how quickly do I need to pitch it to them that it's a value to them?
Gotcha.
And the whole world of like finding work, when you're starting, especially when you're subcontracting, you don't feel like any of the work is like really exactly yours, because your clients are the people you subcontract for, not the actual clients. So all of that is challenging, not insurmountable, but they're things that you don't know until you know, right? You can't ask questions that you can't ask the questions you don't know you have until you have them, kind of thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so that's all kind of a part of this journey.
Wow. Well, I have one more question for Mrs. King, but we talked about DEI. We've talked about your career. We've talked about your business. We've talked about some challenges with the business, but mostly the success. So I want to take a page out of your book, something that we did. I'm not going to say it exactly like we did in one of our enrichments, but I just want to take it and just answer the question for me. Either I feel most at peace when I'm, or I feel I am my best when I. You be okay answering.
I feel most at peace when my dog is resting his head on any part of my body.
It's a big dog, y'all. Okay.
He's like almost 70 pounds, but he's wonderful. And he's not super affectionate. And so when he does decide to like cuddle up, it's like the oxytocin is through the roof, and it feels very special, because he plays hard to get constantly. So when he decides to come over and put his head on my lap, that's the moment. I'm like, I'm doing it right.
Well, I want to encourage you. If there's anything else you want to share, I want to ask you that. But I just want people to know. I wanted to ask that question because I wanted to, at least my part, something positive, and say I think that it's important that we think about that. Like when am I at my best, or when am I most at peace? Because for me, that's something that I want to always aim for.
Yeah.
I just want to, and if I'm off, I want to get back to it. It's like it's that anchoring, it's the anchoring aspect, I think, of me to try to be calm.
Yeah.
To not only have patience in myself, but to give patience, to others as well. And so, like I said, it is my honor to have you on this podcast, because you have been down with me really since we started it. She's right. This is my first time saying it, but it's because I didn't want to try to, not a conflict. I'm saying I just didn't want to complicate. We have so much going on, and I didn't want to try to do this on Zoom. I wanted to do it in person, which a lot of our stuff is done. A lot of our podcasts have been online. So I've asked you about a number of things. Is there anything? And I trust whatever you want to say. Is there anything else that you want the people to know about you that I've neglected to ask, or about your business, how to contact you? Is there anything else that you want to share with them? Because we're going to give you that information, but anything else you want to say?
I welcome you all to find me on LinkedIn. It's Kaytia King, Kaytia, the Ti like the sh in vacation.
Tell them.
Yeah. My website is on Dina Consulting.
Can you spell that for them real quick?
Yes, it's on dinaconsulting.com. It's ONDINA consulting, like you normally spell it. .com. You're welcome to find me on there, and you can contact me through there as well. You can see the services, but of course, reach out for a conversation. Happy to see how I might be able to help you. And yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure to be here. I was excited, and I'm glad we got to do it in person. It was very nice.
Same.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, everybody, this is my friend, business partner, leader in this work, whether it's organizational development, support, leadership support, and of course, DEI. And I'm thankful to say that we do so much more than that. So please look out for Kaytia. It's going to continue to do big things. So thank you again for being here with me.
Thank you.
This is the Heartwood Podcast. I am so proud to be doing this now, technically 6 years later. And we're now in season 8. and to be able to talk to my friends who are leaders and professionals, that's a blessing. You can talk to people who are one or the other, but when they're your friend, value that, honor them, and value their time. And so I thank you. I know you have other things to do. It's the favorite time of the year for a lot of people. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Just thank you for gracing us. Thank you for your brilliance. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for enriching my life, because this work, it motivates me knowing that I get to work with you. Because sometimes, I'll be honest, the work, not you at all, the work, I'm just like, oh, another one.
Sure.
Here we go, another email, Kaytia, I got another message, another phone call. But when I can say, Kaytia, I got it, it relieves it for me, at least, because I'm like, as you said, it can be lonely, but in this work for the last 4 years, it hadn't been. So seriously, thank you for adding to my life.
Wow.
Check out more Heartwood episodes, you all. You know where to find us. You know, we have our YouTube channel. You can find Heartwood wherever you listen to your podcast. And on that, this is Dr. Thomas Rashard Easley. We have real blessed videography helping us again. So, you know, we got Brother Jones in the background always. The two co-hosts not able to be here, which is Benedict Lupo and, of course, Isaac Carew. But we thank them always. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank Kaytia King for being here. Check out Undina Consulting. Check us out. Easley Branch, out.